Hello, love bugs. How are you doing today? I have been feeling a little bit ill, under the weather, but I've also been celebrating some little milestones as a new business owner, which have been exciting. I hope that you're doing well. Today, I want to talk to you about something that's been coming into my awareness a lot recently. It's been something that I've experienced throughout my entire life to some extent, but then has been popping up again a lot more. And it's something that I have mixed feelings about. A lot of people have called me very naive, very innocent, childish, overly sensitive, dramatic, a lot of these words. Some people might call it being infantilized. And I think that there are a lot of reasons for this. One, that I have this very whimsical way of approaching life, that I see things and I like to find the magic. I also was raised in a culture that teaches you to kind of ignore a lot of the more like real life stuff in the name of this very particular storyline, that there's just one right way to get to heaven. And I had this one moment in this humanities class that I took in college, and I remember raising my hand and being like, it's okay because Jesus is coming again. That it was almost this, like, I'm just gonna push away everything that is bad or hard in the name of this savior story. And in some ways, I just come across like I'm ignoring reality in the name of seeing things through these rose-colored glasses, I guess. And even still, that I've left the church, people have told me that I seem really naive, that I don't really know how the world works, those types of things, and they'll second guess my decisions a lot. And it used to really, really bother me because, at this point, I'm a grown woman. I want to feel like people respect me and can value what I have to contribute to the relationship or the conversation, whatever. But I also am to the point where I'm okay with it, because even though I have experienced hard things, I won't say that my life is the hardest ever. I don't think that it's important or necessary to compare hard or the good, that like we just are all living different lives. We all have it hard, we all have it good in some ways. That I have experienced challenges, and I've chosen, instead of becoming hardened and bitter by life, instead of turning my heart off and closing myself off to love and relationships and the beauty of life, I've chosen instead to use that hardship to open myself up to more beauty, to more love, to more opportunity for connection. That through the illnesses that I've faced, through leaving a cult, through experiencing relationships where I was extremely confused about my identity, by the end, I've chosen to find my way through that, to reconnect with myself and other people, and find ways to share the wisdom that I've gained along the way with people, instead of deciding, you know what, I'm too scared to do that anymore. And I won't say that I'm never scared, because I am. I'm scared all the time. And I've always had a hard time when people say, like, love and fear can't exist together, or fear and faith, or fear and whatever. I'm like, no, fear exists all the time. Fear and all sorts of things. When I was, well, living in a YSA ward, which is a young single adult ward in the Mormon religion, I was learning how to wake surf, and I was really scared to get in the water and try to stand up on the board. It was my first time doing it, and my friend who was going to teach me, he said, Trisha, like, you don't have to do this, it's okay. And I looked over at him and I said, if I never did anything that I was afraid of, I would just never do anything. I'm afraid of everything. Or I was. I have been. And one by one, I've been slaying the demons, slaying my dragons, and overcoming my fears, because I don't want them to hold me back. I want to live a life of abundance and beauty and love and passion and excitement that isn't controlled by that fear. So instead of allowing the obsessive thoughts that were consuming me to do so anymore, I'm choosing to live a more intentional life. Yesterday, as a treat to celebrate some of these little milestones that have come up for me, they're actually really big for me, I went to get a Korean scalp treatment, which I have wanted to do for years, ever since I found out about their existence. And if you don't know, you should definitely go Google a Korean scalp treatment. They're super cool. And they took a picture of my scalp to show me what my scalp looked like. And I go into this really cool room and I put on basically a little nightgown thing, lay down, and the girl comes in to do my treatment, and it's just pure bliss. She washes my hair, and I think that she did a seaweed wrap. I don't even know what was happening most of the time. I was just in Zen mode. And then I got to do this steamer thing, and I felt like I was in a spaceship, honestly. It was like a pod over my head with the steam coming off of it, and then the water also. And then it started making this sound that just made me feel like I was just going up into space. It was about to take off. And so that was really cool. Then she finishes up, helps me get up very slowly with the towel on my head, gives me my finishing little massage, and then she gently brings me over to this little vanity where there's a cup of tea and some little cookies that were slightly salted. both were so delicious. And then she starts blow drying and brushing my hair. And I kid you not, I was like, wait, what is happening? Am I a princess? And I started crying because I cry about everything. And I think that I really scared the girl who was helping me. There was also a little bit of a language barrier, so I did tell the manager what had happened, so hopefully he could translate. And it was just this really sweet, beautiful experience for me where my inner child was so happy, so grateful that I was there in that moment, taking care of myself in that way, allowing this sweet woman to take care of me in that way. And I've been doing things like this, some in like large, that feels like a larger way to me, some in smaller ways, just in the daily moments of presence and being with myself, noticing what my body's asking for. But it's been interesting to me because that whole experience, it could really come across to somebody as me being very childish and overly sensitive and dramatic. And I'm okay with that now. I've just accepted that those are beautiful parts of me, and that a large reason why I'm able to stay in touch with those pieces of me is because I've also faced the darker aspects of me, that I've gone into the shadows, and when I do something that doesn't align with me, or what somebody might call a sin or a mistake or just an error, a grievance against myself, that I see it as I've gone against my integrity. That instead of me needing to continuously bury that because I'm ashamed, that I can acknowledge it and then do something about it. That I don't have to go around it or under it or over it. That and also that, like, one of the things that I do really like, that I've taken from my religious upbringing, is this idea that all things shall work together for thy good, for my good, for your good. We can really get ourselves tied up in knots around making the right decision. And this leads it to like very obsessive thinking, which I am very prone to, where we're thinking, okay, if I don't make the right decision, then really bad things are going to happen. And it can feel super life or death in those moments. It can feel like if I don't have all of the answers and make the absolute correct decision in this moment, then like everything bad is going to happen. And I'm not saying that there aren't decisions that are more important or have like higher stakes or greater consequences than others. But there's a point where we start doing that with everything, to the point that we start making ourselves really small. And that's something that happened to me. where I was trying to avoid some of these labels of being the very sensitive, dramatic, childish person to appease the people around me, or I don't know, please. I guess it's kind of the same thing. And in so doing, I shrank and lost my voice. And I've been finding it again in the littlest things. In lately, my brain fog has been, like the past few days, my brain fog has been extra foggy. And interestingly enough, well, it makes sense that when you are having brain fog, that can be very connected to your ability to speak, or, you know, like if you can't think clearly, it's hard to say what you want to say. But I've been wondering about how can I, instead of like thinking so much about what I'm saying, feel what I'm saying. And be with the words, feel into it. And it seems contrary to everything that we are taught, because we are told, you know, think before you speak and all of that. And maybe there's something to that, but maybe it just doesn't have to be such a tug of war all the time between the head and the heart. Maybe if we're in a greater alignment with ourselves, it can feel like this more natural flow of energy through us, which includes our words. And in that flow of energy, of speaking, we find ourselves opening up again to our sensitivity. I've noticed myself kind of doing a lot of this. I'll close down and then I'll open back up again. And then I'll close down and then I'll open back up again. And my hope is that I'll be able to stay open more often, or with that I'll be in more control is not even the right word, but for lack of a better word, control, more awareness of how I'm opening and when I'm closing. That there might be times when I don't want to be quite so wide open. Like, oh, I'm aware of the fact that I'm going to be around a whole bunch of people and I don't need to be quite so sensitive to everybody else's energy in that moment. And then there might be other times where I want to be as wide open as possible to myself, to the person in front of me, and then I will know later that I'm going to go and kind of cleanse my energy of anything that I don't want to be sticking around. this conversation has gone in a little bit of a different direction. I have had a bunch of thoughts running through my head around the like being really childish versus the opposite side of, because I think this childish stuff kind of aligns more with like a feminine vulnerable versus a more like structured, like highly capable adult is a more masculine way of approaching life. And I've had both extremes being presented to me lately. The like very, very chaotic victim side of things, of like damsel in distress, I guess, trope, and then the other side of like the hyper masculine control side. And as we learn to bring those two, which we all have, all of these energies within us, right? We have different characters in us, and it's not that we all have multiple personality disorder. It's just how our consciousness, our subconscious and conscious interact with each other. And we create these little like personas, I guess, and everybody does it a little bit differently, but this is a way that we can understand our psyche. That we have these feminine and masculine attributes, energies, and because of these energies within us, depending on how they present themselves, it's going to determine how our external reality perceives us. And I am a lot more feminine, and that's something that I want. That's my more like natural state. And that's not the case for everybody. Some people prefer to be a lot more in their masculine. Gender or sex, it doesn't matter. It's just based on that individual's, how they feel within themselves most themselves. And I have learned about myself that I feel the most at home within myself when I am in my feminine, very in my feminine, and a little bit masculine, like 80-20. And it shows you that we have a little bit of way to come in finding a balance between those two energies within ourselves, that I do too, and then how that presents itself in our world coming into balance. It can feel a lot like you are too much or not enough when you are extremely in your feminine. And I have found ways to start to balance this energy within myself. And not be so at war with my feminine or my masculine attributes. And to have them work in harmony, in synergy with each other, and support each other. And I think that that's something I would really like to express to you all. I created this little theory a while ago that men have been described as the big, mean, scary bear, dangerous bear. And women have been described as the sweet, innocent, prolific breeding bunny. But if you have a bear and a bunny, they're not breeding, they're not mating. The bear is chasing the bunny is running away from the bear. That sounds a lot like avoidant runner-chaser dynamics. It sounds like a war. And what I have noticed throughout my life is that we are all the bunny and we are all the bear. We are both, and we're also human. So even though we create these labels, it's okay to also remove the labels and just be whoever it is that you are in that moment, and not be so stressed out about any of the labels or diagnoses that have been given to you, positive or negative, however you feel about them, and just be with yourself in that moment. And obviously that can be easier said than done. If you are interested in receiving support, in finding some more emotional neutrality, balance in your life, and alignment within yourself, creating a personal sanctuary in your life, then follow me. And I've also linked my website down below. It's trishastemple.com. I have a free resource available as well as one-on-one mentorship. I would love to see you there. Thanks. Bye.